Hello, good evening, and welcome to a Spooky Tales live stream. Somewhat later than I hoped it would be, but at the very least, I have a voice. Good evening, everyone watching. I see Michelle, Lord Engine, Cylon, Zemplin Castellan. Good evening. And welcome one and all. And I suppose what I would say is hopefully this is good respite from whatever other stresses are going on at the moment in your lives, because obviously there are stresses out there at the moment. But we're not here to talk about those this evening. It's Old Hallowmass, last day for Spoopy. Oh, really? Is it? Oh, cool. So I'm not too late. Thank you very much, Michelle. Now, this evening we have 6 stories to read, and you guys really came through, and hence I wanted to be able to read them with an actual voice, as opposed to sort of going hello. But then that might have been thematic, Welcome to the crypt, that kind of thing. But I figured I owed you a bit more than that, and hopefully my voice holds up this evening. So we're going to start with an entry from Michelle Pearson, and this came with an email that said, "Hi Mark, hope you are well and happy Halloween. This is way past the deadline." Yeah, tell me about it. But it was written by my granddaughter, Daisy Pearson. Daisy Pearson, so I wrote it. Aged 8, who is a history fanatic and an Old Norse saga expert. And her mum, my daughter, Michelle, who live in Harby on the Leicestershire-Nottinghamshire border. Best wishes, Mark. So, this story is 431 words, and it goes thusly. It was a cold, frosty, and dark night in January 1547. King Henry was stirred from his sleep by the gentle rustle of hushed footsteps seemingly circling his grand Hampton Court Palace bedchamber. Henry slowly opened his eyes. Was it a dream? Could there be a light-footed intruder planning about to attack the king? Baffled and worried, Henry sheepishly opened his eyes a little, just enough to glance about the bed. Gentle moonlight cast around the room, and nothing more to see. Thud, 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 thud. Henry's heart throbbed in his ears. Or could it be the quickening of heavier footsteps approaching? Henry attempted to sit up in bed, ginger and slow through fear, and then sudden stabbing pain in his legs, which Henry tried to clutch at. Wet, hot, and sticky ooze from his wounds was all that Henry could feel. The ulcers were getting worse. My bad legs are disturbing me and giving me nightmares, Henry thought to himself. He lay awake that night and rose early the following morning, as he was to inspect the armoury at the Tower of London. War with France was looming, and England must be prepared. Henry walked tentatively across the stable yard. Each horse glanced at Henry as he passed them. Inquisitive horses acknowledging their king, Henry thought, whilst continuing to feel baffled and a little perplexed by the previous night's events. Henry remembered his comments regarding Anne Boleyn resembling a horse, and how resembling a horse, and how unfair it on the horses it was. chin to chest, Henry continued his amble through the stable yard and on to the armoury. His walk impeded by sudden bouts of that stabbing pain in his pustulous legs. What a great word, pustulous. I like that, pustulous legs. Pausing briefly in hope of easing the pain, that familiar thud of footsteps throughout his head returned. Henry hoped it was nothing more than his unfit pulse racing through his head, just like last night. Coming to his height, sudden silence, no throb of footsteps, nothing. Henry glanced about. Every single steed had turned midnight black, and every one of their faces was disgustingly, unflinchingly, and judgingly contorted to glare at the ruthless, self-serving, and murderous king. Sudden noise from above broke his gaze. Pale, pained, and drained, Henry attempted to look toward the noise overhead. Boxes containing arrows were rattling slowly, then quickly, a low rattling hum to a many loud repeating bangs of wooden doors at full force slam. In a daze, punctuated with stabs of pain, Henry began to realize that this was an enemy who he could not frighten, change, or murder. Well, not again, anyway. I like it. It almost feels like poetry at times. The wide vocabulary, the quickening of punctuation at times, of anxiety, and the internal and external worlds interacting. Henry's legs hurting him, his head thumping and pounding, and then, of course, in the stables themselves, pounding and banging, and very good. Great job. Wonderful. Yes, absolutely, Michelle. A nice suspense. Yeah. Well done, Daisy. And Michelle. And thank you so much, Mark, for sending that one in. Now, at the end of the live stream, what I will do, as I tend to do, is I will go through and timestamp each of the stories, and if they haven't got a formal title, then I will add a title to them, just for ease of reference. So yeah, you'll be able to find that. If you weren't able to watch it this evening, you'll be able to find it on the VOD, the video, after the live stream is done, when it goes up on the YouTube channel. So next we have, well, I might just have a sip of something. Coffee. Next we have the Ivory Sarcophagus. This is by a certain Glenn Gleeson, also known as Lord Engine, who is here this evening. And he says here, he overshot, but YOLO. Trust me, you didn't overshoot by as much as I think the next story. So your overshoot of the 666 word count was actually 716. So could be worse, could be much worse. But here we go. The Ivory Sarcophagus, Barton, Massachusetts, 1928. The whitish puff that appeared out of the fog was not from frozen breath, but was the product of a white owl cigar, 3 for 20 cents. The lumpen figure that smoked it was dressed in a drab greatcoat that looked as if it had perhaps barely survived one of the Central Power's rougher assaults, and an accompanying fedora had a sort of natural pleat in its brim from the abuse of neglect. As the figure passed through a pair of neoclassical columns, it muttered in a woman's voice, "Did they forget to paint this place? It looks like a damn cemetery." Barton University's Department of Anthropology was the sort of dust-smelling cave that she had imagined such places must be, though this cave had black marble floors that looked to be considerably more expensive than the age-darkened bones and bits of old spears that they supported. Stuffy little drawers labelled with yellow cards gridded every spare bit of wall space, and corridors branched off to classrooms and offices from the central gathering of tables where artefacts waited to get a slot in the hallowed catalogue. A man with the age-related tonsure of true academics, who looked like he could be King George's own butler, met her while she was wading into the midst of tables. His expression said, "Before she does any real damage." Barton I, Cora Carey, she said, extending the hand that wasn't holding her cigar. "The scribe runs the important stories. We run the interesting ones." So the Barton I must be a newspaper. Cora Carey. Theophilus Smith. He then listed his degrees at length in a self-satisfied lilt. "Ah, well, Theo, I hear you fellas have come into a box that's the bee's knees." "It's more than a box, madam. It's a sarcophagus of unknown make and entirely sealed." "If you haven't opened it, how do you know it's a sarcophagus?" That's a fair question. He rolled his eyes fast enough that he would be in danger of snapping his own optic nerves. "That's why we have departments of anthropology, Miss Carey." The box, and it was a box, whatever the guy with the degree said, was located in a locked storeroom which had been cleared out entirely to house it. As might be expected, it was slightly longer than a good-sized man was tall. It was sheathed entirely in a layer of yellowed ivory, which had been carved with reliefs. There were also blocky shapes that could be writing. The scenes depicted were the sort of thing Cora's pop might have called Satan's own kind of wicked. Weird, misshapen figures performing rites of such graphic specificity as to make the hardiest of nuns renounce their vows in a sudden burst of existentialism. The lid was a gory procession of human sacrifice, that is, if they even were humans being sacrificed. Its very centre bore a misshapen ruby, which passed for the final wounding of a terrified victim as the priest completed his work with a jagged knife. "I bet that rock's worth some serious mazuma," she murmured, idly rubbing it with her thumb, only to immediately pull it away in pain. The stone felt hot. "Are you quite all right, Miss Carey?" asked Dr. Smith, with real concern. "Yeah, my hand's just a bit..." "Ah. So what are you going to do with the thing?" Some vague primal instinct suggested they burn the sarcophagus and throw the ashes to the bottom of the deepest ocean trench that they could find and be happy about it. The sudden feeling of unease which welled forth after touching the ruby had not abated, and her head began to fill with visions from the pictures on the box, rendered in unfortunate realism. "It will be placed with other especially valuable items in storage until it can be thoroughly studied." "Of course you're not going to open it, are you?" "Good heavens, no. No, that would destroy its integrity." In the 1920s, do you really think they get that? Sorry. How to destroy its integrity? Good, don't. I've got a bad feeling about this one, Doc. The disgusting visions still churned in Cora's head. The next day, Cora sat down to write. She didn't entirely trust these university types to use their own good sense when it came to a mystery. What would do it? And then she wrote this. Barton Eggheads flummoxed on how to open strange plague box, was the headline she decided while finishing her last white owl. I like it. I like it. That very good, very good. Sorry, I couldn't. I dived in at the end there, didn't I, with a little comment on the notion that they wouldn't open it. 1928, they would be inside that box quicker than I nearly said rude things. They'd be inside the box anyway. Thank you. And yes, of course, writing the headline. You know, you're gonna make an impact on what these eggheads think. Nice. To use it because it came to me. Yeah. No, I like it. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was fantastic, Lord Engine. Good job once again. Yeah. So next in our anthology is a story called Copperpoints, and this one is 2,276 words. I know. And at this point, I'm sure Michelle is probably spitting because verbiage and being concise is often a difficult thing. But in this instance, this is from Peter. He says, hopefully I'm not too late this year with submitting my story to ArchaeoSoup's Spooky Story Contest. If it doesn't meet the length criteria, it does meet the length criteria, and might be and might be a bit longer than needed. Oh, okay. I see, yeah. No matter. At least I gave it a shot. I've written it to be as self-contained as possible. Okay. Good point. Fair point, Michelle. I wouldn't call it a horror story. It's more like a mystery story. The sort you'd read in an armchair, near a lit candle or a small, weakly shining lamp in a darkened room on an autumn evening. So pretty on point. There's a point here as well about pronunciation. Danish and Dutch names herein. Essentially, J's are pronounced y, which I'm quite familiar with. Old Norse, having worked at Jorvik. These are things that I appreciate you pointing out, though. So, Copperpoints, 2,276 words. Ugh. Would you look at this, groaned Medford, as she turned the newspaper towards her colleague, Edwin Christensen, who had just entered the office half a minute ago. She smacked the front page with her palm. Archaeologists baffled, proclaimed the banner headlines of Ye Maritime Herald. I should explain, I'm reading in the gloom as well, so, you know. There might be the occasional trip. The Maritime Herald. Christensen quickly chuckled, poured himself some tea in the office's kitchenette, and said, I'm more baffled that you seem surprised at all, Kaya. Have they just caught up with 2 weeks old news reports from the dig site near the Great Lakes at the western border? The news crews already covered the news finds nearly 2 weeks ago, back when I was working at the site with De Jong and Duchamp. It's scientific literacy, really. Is scientific literacy really getting this bad? I thought the Maritime Herald was still a serious broadsheet. Then you notice this tripe on the front page, explained an exasperated Carolina Medford, Edwin's co-worker at the National Museum of New Denmark. Interesting. You know how it is these days, opined Christensen, taking a sip. The circulation of the papers is declining. The old mainstays are chasing every reader and every subscriber. Even the Herald is getting on the gutter press emotional tactics. And on the Orbish mesh. As long as it gets clicks, anything goes. He noted. Then he took another brief sip. Per usual, there's been no rewriting the textbook stuff at the dig site. We found a rarer type of copper arrowhead that might fill in some gaps in archaeological record of the North, Central and Great Lakes Copper Age, but that's about it. Jog my memory, were those newly found copper points for usual arrows? In this case, for crossbow bolts, actually. Nothing baffling about them, they're just rarer. Yep, I mean, granted, we get far, far more microlithic antler and bone arrowheads on surviving native bolts from the pre-colonial era, but these aren't even the first copper arrowheads for bolts that we found. It's just silly to claim that we found anything baffling. Speaking of our New Zealand colleague, De Jong, the boss, got a call from the police early this morning. Some Inspector Halligan, or whoever called in, to ask whether De Jong came to work. His neighbours have not seen him since Tuesday. Last time they saw him, he told them he's going for an extended trip somewhere. He might not show up for a long time. Got in his car and left. Oh wow, last time I spoke to him was while we were still at the dig site, over a week ago. Haven't met him since, said Christensen, genuinely surprised. You know, as an immigree from the south, he has no established family or relatives up here, just a few friends and neighbours. So it's not like anyone would be looking for him all that much. He's never been willing to discuss his family or relatives. A level-headed, dependable archaeologist, but very private as a type of person. He might already be west of the Appalachians, for all we know. Hopefully he didn't commit something. Well, you know what I mean, said Medford, matter-of-factly, but with a hint of worry. Nah, I don't think so. Granted, he had a strange Dutch accent, even for a New Zealander from the south, and claimed to be a recent arrival from Europe. Then again, he openly detested crime, especially in archaeology. Unlikely to be a thief. Poor scientific literacy, the real horror. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm banging on about it all the time. Unlikely to be a thief. But why did he leave in such a hurry then? She couldn't help but notice an intrigued expression forming on his face. Next thing you tell me is you want to play detective, Edwin. Christensen was driving to De Jong's house in one of the villa suburbs built on the outskirts of Indianhaven back in the 1970s, as the overcast sky transitioned into a drizzle. He took a left turn, carefully passing by the trolleybus at the local stop, passengers exiting and embarking. 2 more streets and he'll be at Valdemar, 3 lane number 42, De Jong's place. And he had a way to get in. Some months ago, De Jong had given Medford a spare key to his house, telling her to hide it in a compartment of their department's employee safe. Naturally, Kaya was confused about the whole thing, but De Jong politely insisted that he might need to keep a spare key from his house just in case. As Medford told Christensen, it was as if De Jong was tempting people just to take the key and break into his place. In light of the disappearance, it seemed intentional. Driving slowly down the narrower streets, Christensen wondered about De Jong, the now missing New Zealander, was an odd duck indeed. He always had an eccentric side. Barely 2 weeks ago, after De Jong indulged one of the news crews at the dig site by showing them the latest copper finds and explaining their significance, he and Christensen struck up a conversation. De Jong was still holding the new Copperpoints in the palm of his rubber glove. Rubber glove, nodding in appreciation. He mentioned how, for the great miracle that was the domestication of maize in Central and South America from essentially tiny grass ears, the sophistication of the North American Copper Age was nothing to sneeze at either. The creation of finely crafted native copper tools and weapon blades already in the Archaic era, followed by a shift towards decorative copper tools, copper artifact making in the later millennia. It all put even the Old World Copper Age to shame. All this, all in spite of the Amerindians never having any domesticates beyond dogs, turkeys, and llamas in the Andes, and never developing complex metallurgy as far as iron, barely approaching bronze. And then you had the fact that they independently invented simple crossbows and crossbow bolts, likely somewhere in the eastern woodlands around 10th century Common Era. Christensen noted, "It's all amazing and impressive indeed, and yet he couldn't shake the impression that de Jong was somehow more amazed by the existence of native tillabos than any other North American archaeologist, whether of native or European descent. Why was de Jong so surprised?" Then there was the time about 2 years ago when de Jong, Christensen and Medford had been invited to the opening of the NM exhibition on the history of archery-related material culture among Eastern North American peoples. De Jong got acquainted and shook hands with some real academic heavyweights from multiple countries. Saskia Williams Jensen, one of the foremost experts on the late Mississippian cultures, Virginie Duchamp, famous Anishinaabe historian and director of the Museum of Indigenous Cultures of New France, Gareth Ravenbird of Shoshone National Archaeological Institute, highly knowledgeable about the Great Plains and Northwest Plateau cultures, and native hornbow technology. Etienne Beaumont, top expert on Native American crossbows and experimental archaeology involving such finds, and even the youngest of the bench, Clare Brouwer from Willemstad in New Zealand, a specialist on the artistic traditions of several North American cultures. Christensen recalled how Beaumont and Brouwer showed them the then newly published non-fiction book Tillabo, The History, Technology and Ethnography of New World Crossbows, considered the most definitive monograph on the subject to date. After decades of piecemeal coverage in similar publications and science journal articles, de Jong kept admiring the book, as well as all the simple but varied native tillabos that in the display cases. But Christensen felt de Jong's reaction was still strange, a sort of pinch me, I can't believe it expression, one that de Jong's face attempted to carefully curate and conceal. Why would he continue to be so astonished by native crossbows with their simple string-catch grooves, small top-mounted triggers, or bottom-mounted rising peg levers, their self-bows, sinew-backed bows, or horn bows? They were a bit of a New World tech miracle, but that had been around for ages, or at least 1,000 years. Finally, last year, one of Medford's friends at their institute confided in her that he went for a pint at a local pub with de Jong and several other co-workers, and some strange things were said that evening. De Jong couldn't hold his liquor and inadvertently got rather drunk, along with a few others from the group. While de Jong was inebriated, he started talking haphazardly about his home, containing a North America consisting of only two countries, Canada. Canada? And the so-called United States. Not the nearly 40 countries of present-day North America. Weirder still, he claimed that there are no independent Native American countries where he comes from, and the so-called Yuis apparently landed men on the moon already and the so-called US apparently landed men on the moon already in 1969. After a while, the fellow drunken colleagues were laughing at. De Jong's tales. Such imaginative claptrap. Everyone knows that humanity first set foot on the moon in 2002. The great landing of the new millennium, as it was often referred to. An intentional effort. A drunk de Jong sure had an active imagination. Medford's friend wondered whether it was just the booze or whether de Jong didn't have some mental problems. Medford decided to tactfully avoid asking de Jong any questions about this. But she did eventually tell Christensen about the whole incident several months later. He still had no idea what to think of it. Christensen shut the door of his car and looked around carefully. The drizzle had lessened, but not ceased. No neighbours or passers-by were seen on the quiet suburban street, nor in the yards and gardens. Looking around for a minute, he didn't notice anyone spying on him from the windows. He walked over to the front gate, unlocked it, entered and locked it again. He did the same with the entrance door. Once inside, he walked through the quiet house, checking for any traps, just in case. He didn't turn on the lights to avoid drawing suspicion. And after searching de Jong's desk and its drawers in the study, he was surprised to find a neatly enclosed envelope. The envelope's surface contained only these words: "About my departure." Curious, Christensen opened the envelope and unfolded the note. "To whomever it may concern, I hereby announce that I've left this place for good. I had no choice, as I don't know when the next opportunity will arise. As much as I enjoyed my stay in your world, I had recently learned of a potential gateway back to my world. I must leave now. Don't worry. By world, I do not mean another planet, nor the future, nor the past. I am from the same planet as you, an ordinary human, a Dutchman from the Netherlands, and as far as I'm aware, I never broke any of your country's laws, nor harmed or insulted anyone. My only sin is that I was born in what appears to be a different historical timeline, at least from the perspective of your world. I won't judge whether your world is better than mine, though I have to admit Native Amerindians of your world were overall more lucky than they were where I come from. So we're more apologies, just a second. More lucky than were the ones where I came from. May the same good luck occur in my home timeline, to which I hopefully now return after my involuntary sojourn into yours a few years ago. Please don't look for the location of the portal. It is hardly a stable gateway anyway. Please express my heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Brover, Mrs. Williams Jensen, Mr. Beaumont, Mr. Ravenbird, and Mr. Christensen, Mrs. Medford, and to all the other historians, archaeologists, researchers, and others who I've met in the past few years. Best wishes to all. Tobias de Jong. Christensen read the note over and over again, at least 10 times. He pondered whether it was an elaborate practical joke. No, a sick joke. Pondered whether de Jong had suddenly lost his marbles, or whether he was some cunning conman all along. But if he was a conman, why was he such a vehement critic of artifact robbing and of pseudo-archaeological authors? Such an outspoken defender of archaeological heritage? His behaviour would make no sense. Unless he wasn't really joking. His strange, off-handed mentions of fictional things while he was inebriated. Could all of it have been real after all, in another world? Did he really wander in from a parallel world involuntarily and try to make the best of it? It was all so confusing. A timeline with no independent Native American invention of the crossbow, a world where North America was covered by 2 huge countries and natives had no sovereign countries of their own, a world where humanity landed on the moon already in 1969? Preposterous. And yet, whatever the case may be, Christensen could already imagine the headlines of every tabloid in the Republic of New Denmark, and likely other eastern seaboard countries in the weeks ahead. Authorities baffled, archaeologists gone missing, national police conducting extensive police investigation with the help of the Houdenostens Commonwealth Police Service. Even a year later, the whereabouts of Tobias de Jong remained a mystery. The closest answers were provided by his abandoned car and abandoned wallet, found by the new Danish police near a rural town not far from Indianhaven. The car was still parked in front of the village pub, while the wallet with all of de Jong's ID, payment cards, and cash was found at a meadow near the local forest. No signs of a struggle or kidnapping were apparent. An extensive police search of de Jong's suburban house never found any evidence as to his mysterious fate. Nor could it. Christensen had kept the letter to himself, well hidden, and threw away the spare key into a scrap metal recycling bin. He still didn't know what to believe, but he hoped his and Kaya's vanished pal, Toby, had found a way home. And there you go. Thank you so much for that, Peter. I'm really sorry about tripping up here and there. But I think, as you probably should know already, I am also dyslexic. So sometimes going from line to line can be a little bit difficult for me. Plus the gloom. But no, that was really interesting. And I love the little hints. That's why the Amerindian tripped me up, because I was like, is that a real word? It's not. It's a unreal word in New Denmark. I like it. Also, in his notes, and I didn't mention this at the beginning because I thought it might be a spoiler, he said to note that in addition to the J's being Y's, essentially, that a certain Zealand mentioned in the story has 2 E's and not an E and an A. So it's not New Zealand in Australasia. No. In the Southern Hemisphere. Is that Australasia? Down there. It's not Antipodean or whatever. But it is ZEE land. So yeah, I like it. A lot of native gay names in there too, yep. It is a real word. I thought it was a real word, yeah. Slightly obsolete in our timeline. Also, I quite liked the what was it called? The car being found in Indianhaven, or Haven, in Indianhaven. INDJANHAVN. I like it. the tale grew in the telling, and it's a good tale. It didn't feel, if that's any consolation, didn't feel like it was that long. And to be fair, I could have printed it with slightly better spacing for my own ease of reading. But thank you. And I need to, I really do need to go back through and put all the entries in written form on as a blog post. Probably now, as of about 12 months ago, actually, I think I had to shift the ArchaeoSoup website from archaeosoup.com because it was getting ridiculously expensive to essentially a modified version of the blog. It's still the same format as the old website, but much more easily affordable in terms of hosting costs. And on that, I can definitely create a writing tab, basically a writing entries tab, in addition to the blog that's on there. So maybe that's what I need to do. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't read that. Again, it just caught me out in the moment. Is that Howden? Howden? Sorry, I live in Howden. Howden. Hodenosoni. I'm only going to embarrass myself. Right. Thank you so much. If there are other pronunciation notes you want to put below, I'm sure people will welcome them, especially on the VOD version. So on the post-stream version of this, the actual video, do put a comment in there if there's something egregious. Next we have, this is a bit of writing from Michelle Franklin. The word count is 993, and the title is A Baffled St. Nicholas. And that, Cylon, is why there was all this mentions of... oh, that was St. Martin, wasn't it, earlier? But this is St. Nicholas. Winter happened. In most of the world, when leaves burn to gold and the sky singes with the smoke of autumn bonfires, the gift-givers of the world prepare for their descent. The change in the season brings them in, and though some come earlier than others, some venturing out in November and others being fashionably late in January, the primary job of a gift giver is to usher in happiness during the darkest time of the year. Their job is also to do the will of fatigued adults and guilt children into good behavior. Now, behave. You there, behave. But whatever, good or bad, who knows? Into good behavior, making the long winter lie-in of many months more tolerable. It was early December, and deep in the crenellated mountains of Bavaria, the gift-givers were preparing for their journey out, their coming heralded by a sleeping sun, the light nestling in the band of rime over the horizon. Everyone was out, going about their holiday buyings and awaiting their gift-givers' arrival. The air was alive with anticipation. There was pageantry, parade, preparation, and one gift-giver in particular was standing at his dressing table, gazing into his mirror and admiring his cascade of resplendent hair. Unlike myself. It was the 5th of the month. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and St. Nicholas was preparing to make his seasonal debut and lead his procession through the town square. He fixed a few wayward curls, popped on his tall mitre, draped his freshly ironed coat over his shoulders, and took his gilded crozier in hand. He pinched his cheeks till they blushed, taped on his caterpillar eyebrows, and hooked his long rippling beard over his ears. He had bags of coins, nuts and toys to give out to good children, and potatoes and rocks for the bad ones. But Nicholas could not process through the streets himself amidst the throngs of ardent admirers. He needed his counterpart. If he was all goodness and glory, he must walk alongside the epitome of evil. One who could punish the wayward children and whose dreadful features could frighten off death and disease. Some gift-givers walked with servants, others walked with spirits and sprites, but Nicholas walked through the square with his best friend, Krampus. No one knew where Krampus came from, but they knew he lived in a cave, ate naughty children, and was an enormous beast. His rancid breath could melt a glacier, his long claws could slice through stone, and his long horns could pierce through trees and lift them up by the root. Nicholas called him Crampy, and braided his fur whenever he was feeling low. Everyone always gaped in terror when they saw Krampus trudge beside Nicholas, which was understandable. His eyes glowed, his face looked like roadkill with fangs on it, and he carried a whip that made children scream when it cracked. He carried a large sack over his shoulder. He was supposed to use it to drag away bad children, but he really used it to carry the potatoes and the rock that Nicholas gave out. Nicholas brought the newly minted hazel whip and freshly darned sack to Krampus's cave and put them down at the door. He adjusted his beard and coat and pulled on the rope that rang the doorbell. "Crampy!" Nicholas pealed. "It's time for walkies!" No one answered. Nicholas tried to look through the cave window, but no lights were on, and the curtains were drawn. Nicholas rang the bell again. "Come now, Krampus! It's time!" A curtain flicked aside, but the lights remained off. A horrible voice spoke to Nicholas from within the cave. "Oh, I'm afraid I'm not feeling very well today." "Oh," Nicholas paused. "Have you caught a cold? I've got some elderflower, handy, rather." "No." "Is it your stomach? You must be hungry, and I'm sure there will be plenty of orphan children running about to munch on." Krampus did like a good leg, especially if it was aged over 5 years, but he had no appetite. Nicholas knew that Krampus could sometimes be petulant, but it was only his way, being a vile monstrosity who spent most of his year on his own. After all, "Shall I show you what I brought for you?" Nicholas chimed, taking something out of the sack. "I've got a brand new whip, a brand new chain, for you. One with a lovely bell on it, just how you wanted. And I've got your whip with the withies all prettied up. And your sack has been mended. We know what happened last year. Come on, I'll show you." A diffident air moved away from the curtain. "It's cold." "Of course it is. It's the winter, and the winter draws us out. If you don't like the cold wind against you, then put on a sweater." Krampus's voice shrank. "Oh, I don't want to." Nicholas pouted and tapped his foot. "Does Crampy want a treat?" he sang. "I have some nice dried crunchable naughty children slices for you in my pockets." Krampus sounded as though he were thinking. Were they pickled children? Nicholas was trying to forget about the episode with the pickled children. He tried to pass it off as him having saved only slightly briny boys, but the remembrance had to be explained, and Nicholas didn't like being reminded about the mess. "No, I sent those children home, however disappointed their parents might have been. Come now, what's all the fuss about? You love your yearly walkies. You love tramping about town and frightening bad children and making everyone cry. Oh, I'm not in the mood today. But it must be today. It's the 5th of December and everyone's waiting for you. Krampus sounded as though he was lounging with his chin on folded arms. Just go without me. Nicholas could not do so without him. His shining beard and exquisite coat needed contrast, and there can be no saint without a sinner. But, we must go together, Krampy. We're a pair. We're always together. Krampus trumpeted in dissent, which sounded like an elephant struck down with nasal congestion. And Nicholas was baffled. Very good, very good. Leaving us wanting more there. And I like it. And poor Krampus. It's just like Krampus and werewolves. They deserve good characterization. And I feel as though you deliver. Okie dokie. Right, so we have 2 more to go. We are approaching an hour into the stream, so not too bad really. And excuse me. There we go. Krampy, behave. You'll receive the pickled naughty kids later. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Krampy. So this is a story from Nolan, who I haven't seen in the chat this evening. Hopefully he's doing okay over on the Discord server. It's clear that, again, current events have been stressing people out. But Nolan, also known as Earth to Tree or Give It a Grow, he has a wonderful YouTube channel called Give It a Grow, has sent in a submission that is, in fact, 666 words long. Well done him. Not including the title, he says. I hope you like it. The Drowned Woman, 666 words, not including the title, he says, underscoring it. A wooden figurehead carved in the shape of a drowned woman sways in the darkness at the bottom of the sea. Circled by fish in a macabre ballet, its serene face gazed into the abyss, her ankles bound with ropes, festooned with seaweed, pocked with barnacles reaching from their shells like caged prisoners. 'Twas cursed to the depths by a tortured crew of sailors in hopes of their bad luck, the sinking along with it. Their voyage was plagued with windless seas and haunted dreams. As the food stores dwindled, delirium had set in. They saw a woman at night walking the ship's railings like a tightrope. In the morning, sails were found torn, with deep scratches in the mast. Rampant accusations of sabotage bred paranoia among the crew. Some of them blamed the figurehead as a bad omen. When the captain was found dead in his quarters with a gruesome neck wound, they had an inquisition, but no man was found guilty. Rumours of a stowaway arose. They searched the ship from topsail to keel without finding so much as a rat. Burying the captain at sea, gulls swarmed the ship like a bloated fish. The feathered torrent grows as an ominous cloud before dispersing to the 7 winds by a cannon shot. Something was attracting them to the bow of the ship. They noticed blood dripping into the water. The lifeless hands of the drowned woman figurehead bled as if her wrists were freshly cut. The crew boiled into superstitious frenzy. Grabbing the axes and hooks, they chopped it from the bow. Ritualistically bound it with a rope, lashed it to a heavy stone from the ship's ballast. They hoisted it aloft and cast it overboard, swallowed by the sea with a hollow ka-splash. It sinks into shadow. Forgotten by time, teetering on a strand of frayed rope, a shark lunges, pinning a fish against the figure. It breaks off several teeth into the wood that protrude like arrowheads. It slowly spins and the rope snaps. For days she drifts through the dark blue waters, the waves ushering her to shore. A fisherman, walking alone on the bluffs, approaches the motionless figure in the sand, expecting to find a corpse. Her wooden form had turned the putrid green of rotting flesh. Wood-grain veins running down her arms swelled and split open, crawling with tiny creatures squirming over her waterlogged surface in a living patina. The fisherman hauls the figure ashore. He brings the twisted black skeleton of a dying match to his tobacco pipe. The crackling smoke fogs his mind under ashen clouds. He ponders over the serene look upon her face, seeping droplets of salty tears. Entranced, he drags the figure down the beach to his boat. A crab, wearing a silver ring, clings to her feet and scuttles into the foaming sea. He loads her onto the boat and heads back to port. Whispers drift on the wind. The clouds grow low and heavy, squeezing his little boat between sky and sea. A dark cloud reaches down and drinks the ocean. The whirling water spout turns the tumultuous tides. The boat spins in a vortex and slams into the waves. The figurehead rocks back and forth with fury. Rain stings his eyes, his vision blurs, a dock appears in the distance. When his boat arrives, the rain is a curtain of water. He struggles to find a mooring and realizes that this is a large wooden ship adrift at sea. The storm must have turned him around and cast his boat far from shore. He looks up at the hull. Dozens of dead sailors are lashed to the bow as a horrible monstrous figurehead. He looks down, and the drowned woman figure is missing. It must have fallen from the boat. In the crashing waves, he thought. He glanced up at the ship, at the shadow in the corner of his eye, and a figure is seen walking serenely on the ship's railing as a tightrope above him. And he is baffled. Good stuff, Nolan. Good. It was sort of poetic at times in its descriptions, and the length of sentences and punctuation, and this idea of a ghost ship coming back to the ship and the figurehead. But also the fact that all of the sailors had been bound to the ship physically as well. There's something a bit Blair Witchy there, you know. Each man had been bound to the other in the shape of some sort of star. Yeah, very cool. I like it. Well done. So just having a quick look at the chat. Loving everyone's stories since I joined. Looking forward to seeing the ones I missed in the morning with my coffee tomorrow. Cool. A ship is a great environment for a spooky story. It is. Rules were less than 100 words. 666 if you can manage it. And the word baffled. Did I say less than 100 words? Okay. Well, 666. You know, I think basically 666 is the rule, isn't it? Is the rule. And of course the theme. Very atmospheric. Yeah, classic. Reminds me of The Voice of the Night by W.H. Hodgson. Okay. Cool. Right. Finally, we have... This is from Samantha, and this is an interesting one. And I've saved it to last because it is short and sweet, but it's also the format this is interesting. So Samantha is still working on her PhD, apparently, and excuse me, and has a YouTube channel called The Wandering Archaeologist. Got a story for me this year to read, attached below. One number off this time on the word count, so 266 words. Fair enough. Frankly, this is this. Oh no, so that's the second part. So I hope you enjoy it. Well, thank you very much, Samantha. Also, interestingly, Samantha is I seem to recall running a D&D campaign linked with Gilgamesh. I don't know if I'm allowed to say any more about that, but yeah. So she's clearly up to intriguing things. And her story, and this is why I got a bit confused, takes the shape of an email. So I nearly read the bottom of the email in the story as opposed to the bottom of her email there. So here we go. This is Samantha's entry. My dear friend and colleague, perhaps you could help me examine the tablet enclosed in this box. It appears to be a letter written by a son to his father pertaining to their trading business. It dates to the old Assyrian period, and I have written my translation below, but would appreciate a second opinion. Frankly, this one has us, all of us here, baffled. So yeah. Oh, there you go, The Wandering Archaeologist, and this is the attachment. TS.1047 Translation. Obverse. This is the obverse side of the box. To pursue blank, say thus, bracket says, you are my father, you are my lord, I continue to. And when I say continue to tentatively, this is where the author has actually put in to the message their own sort of insertion of translation. So it's sort of like filling in the gaps. So thus says, you are my father, you are my lord, I continue to take care of your business. I continue to take care of your affairs. Your messenger will tell you. But I am troubled by my dreams. You have said, take no heed of dreams. Yet again and again my dreams have warned of trouble, and trouble has come. My dreams have kept your business prosperous. Why is it that a terrible, in truth, I fear, I must leave for? I have sent my servant to you. So it's all sort of broken up as well, the text. He must not return, if you will, my servant Adad, or Adad. I know this is disagreeable to you and your affairs, but I have told thee the city will be, send my brothers, if I will inform you, but I know it will not happen. Reverse. This is the other side of the box. I see you. You sit in a dark room with a vacant expression and wide eyes as you read this. You have read this letter many times and still do not understand. You will not understand. You cannot understand. Don't be frightened. I have been dead for ages upon ages. This letter will be destruction, agony, and see you in my dreams. Speak. I am lost there as you are here. Yes, you. I am speaking to you. I see your tablet of light. It's very good. I like the broken text. I like the insertions with the brackets, especially in the obverse there. The reverse is where clearly the box is looking at you, or the dreamer is looking at the person trying to read the box. And I'm guessing the tablet of light is either like a light panel or maybe an iPad or something, or a phone. I like it, and this I think is another reason why having the written submissions in a place, probably on the website, is going to be a good idea, because I think looking at it and seeing how it's written will be important. That's the only one I've dropped on the floor. Hang on. But yeah, so you can see, again, it's all sort of broken up and this sort of thing. So I think having it in front of you as a reader, the structure is clever. Yeah. No, I like it. I think it's good. And thank you so much. I hope I did it justice. It's kind of interesting to try and read it. But the way also that the reverse is so much less broken up, so much more as though it's almost in your own mind as you're reading it, almost though the dreamer has entered the room. I dig it. Also, as well, I dig it because it's a box. It's an engraved box, much like one of my favourite ever artifacts, Frank's Casket. So yeah, and in fact, what I might do is either in the information below or at the end of this this video, direct. I say yes, direct, isn't it? The text is suddenly directed at you. It's not like a letter between A and B. It's to you. But yes, I'll put a link on screen to a video about Frank's Casket as well. And there you go. You like the creativity of the final one as well. Really varied stories this evening. Lots of varied stories. And again, you can sort of see why I wanted to have a full voice for these. Not just to sort of struggle through. Not that I didn't trip up from time to time. Frank's Casket inspired the box in your story. Okay, cool. In the Ivory Sarcophagus. I like it. Yeah, that one is, I think it's walrus ivory, I do believe. Yeah, Frank's Casket is. And that's it. That's all 6 entries. Now, I don't know. We sometimes loosely call it a competition. I don't think we have to call a winner. What I will say, though, is I really appreciate the variety. You know, so we have, in terms of style and structure, in terms of vocabulary, and whalebone. I think, yes, no, I think it is whalebone. Yes, I think the walrus ivory is the Lewis Chessman. I think, seem to recall. Something's made out of walrus ivory. Something, I guarantee it. Yeah, the structure, the vocabulary, the use of the stylistic change, the dreamy nature of the drowned woman. It felt like I was reading a dream in that sense. St. Nicholas, Baffled, and as ever, Michelle, your characterization of monsters being lovable, misunderstood creatures with hearts of gold, as ever, brings a smile. Yes, thank you, everyone. Copperpoints was fun. I love the alternate universe way that was written. And again, that's something that comes through in the reading. The Ivory Sarcophagus. That was, I really liked the period nature of that. That was really cool with the journalist. And then almost as a sort of public duty writing a sort of baffled headline. But I like this sort of, you know, she feels like she's got moxie, kid. And then of course the wonderful Daisy and her mum Michelle writing our opener today, with Henry, and lots of little facts about Henry VIII, and the fact that he is haunted by horsey people who he's insulted as being horsey, ghosts. Imagine Dorothy Parker meets Kathy Bates. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. Great job, all. Always the best time of the year. Well, I think so, Michelle. I think it is lots of fun, and I think last year we did do a Christmas sort of festive moot, didn't we? So we'll have to do that, I think, as well. Try and have 2 moots per year. And then, I don't know, should there be an Easter moot? I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't push our luck. Maybe we, don't. You can have too much of a good thing. But yes, I think they were all great stories. Now, I don't know if you can hear, but my voice is starting to go again. So I shall have to love you all and leave you, I'm afraid. But it's been great. Thank you so much. Mootmas. Yes, it was. It was Mootmas, wasn't it? But no, it's been great fun. I'm going to go and probably watch The Crow. I haven't watched it yet this year. And usually we watch it in this house around about Halloween. I need to go and watch it at some point soon anyway. Haunted by anxiety. Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, Henry VIII was haunted by his own anxiety. Yeah, as much as anything else. Morty, show the dog. The dog is he's upstairs. He's snuggled up and snoozing already. So yeah, he's adorable though. Absolutely wonderful. Yep, may my voice recover soon. Amen to that. And diolch yn fawr once and all. One and all, sorry. Hashtag show dog. Hey, you can find the pictures of the dog on the Discord server, and I will show him in a video or a live stream at some point certainly before the end of November. You can hold me to that. Grand. Right, guys. Love you all. It's been great fun. I shall see you soon, no doubt, on the Discord and also on the YouTube channel. But until next time, do take care. And again, thank you so much for such wonderful writing. It's always a pleasure, and I'm always so touched and amazed that people actually spend time to write stories for me to read. So, yes, Nostar indeed, Nostar. Nostar, good night. Mwah!